Hello everyone, and thank you for your patience. Welcome back to our weekly Thursday webinar. So today we have very interesting topic that gonna be helpful to all the audience. And today we have speaker Abhishek Chauhan who would be conducting today's webinar. So I would be handing over this to Abhishek. So Abhishek, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Arjun. So, as Arjun said, we are going to touch base upon how leads and other entities are created via APIs. So, first of all, the reason why we chose this topic because there are many of you who are, trying to connect your websites or some other applications with Kailas in order to have a seamless data flow between one or more than one systems. So it becomes very essential to understand the Kailas APIs, how and you can, how you can search the leads or deals or contacts from Kailas, then how you can create. So all those things we are going to touch base upon in brief today. And I will also share the API documents with everybody. And I will give a high level idea of how these APIs are to be used. I may not touch base upon each and every API because there are hundreds of APIs, but I will take an example of a regular business case that comes to us very often. So I will show that via one example. Let me know if my screen is visible. So in order to start with the demo, I wanted to pick up a typical business case of any e-commerce portal for that matter. So let us say we have a website and one can go ahead and sign up on the website and they can log in and they can place an order, right? So what is the typical business requirement is that whenever somebody signs up on the portal, a lead in Kailas should be created. And before creation, actually, it should be searching whether a lead is already there in the system. If yes, then no lead will be created. If no, then create a new lead. And similar to that, let's say if a person is already signed up on Kailas, they have been created as a lead or contact. And if they add any of the product in the cart, then a deal should be created in Kailas. And then the next typical requirement is whenever a deal stage is getting changed in the website, the corresponding stage should be reflected back in Kailas. So these are some very basic examples where there is a need of connecting two systems. One is the website, which is the e-commerce portal, and second is the Kailas. So we'll try to understand how this use case can be fit with the help of Kailas APIs. Before we go into that, there is this Postman documentation of Kailas APIs that I'm putting in the meeting chat that you can refer later after this meeting in order to try using the APIs. So when you will click on that link, you will see all the documents and necessary instructions written over there. And when you will click on this run in Postman, it will directly take you to the Postman and the whole collection will be downloaded and will be added in your workflow workspace. Okay, so this is how the APIs will be looking like. Okay, so before going into the APIs, one last thing about authentication of Kailas API. So authentication of Kailas API is very simple. That is basis on the API key, and the API key can be found in your Kailas tenant account. When you go to CRM settings, you go to integrations, and under integrations, you will get the API key. So whenever you want to make any call to any of the Kailas APIs, this API key has to be added under the header section along with this key, which is API hyphen key, and the value of this will be the API key that you are getting from the tenant account. So that's a very basic form of authorization that we are having in order to access all the Kailas APIs, right? Now, let us begin with first use case, which was there that whenever a person signs up on Kailas, then you should be able to first of all find whether there is a lead already there in Kylas or not. Okay. Now, how I will also try to show the same thing via the user interface of Kylas and followed by the API so that we can validate the results that we are getting in the APIs. Okay. So here what I will do is, let us say in order to sign up, mobile number is mandatory for any of the customer. Okay. So what I will do from Kailas UI is, let us say this is one of the customer's number that you are getting at the time of sign up. So what I'm doing over here is I'm trying to search the lead via this phone number on my Kailas account. So I'm getting three different leads in result. Okay. Now let us try to do the same thing via the API. So if you go to Kailas API collection under lead APIs, there is a API called search lead. Okay. Now in the search lead, this is the URL that will be available to you by default, and we will add the API key. I go to my Kailas account. Let me open that in the new tab. Go to integrations and copy the API key. Now I will paste this API key and I will go to the body. Now here we are trying to search a lead by the phone number. So you will scroll this whole body and at the end you will see a JSON rule. Okay, so what this JSON rule is basically doing is it is searching that particular value, let's say a phone number or an email ID across different fields, which is multi-field. So basically what is happening is, here you see we search across these 4 5 fields: name, phone number, email, and company. Okay, so you have to pass the particular number or email ID in the value field. So let us say I wanted to search a lead by the phone number. So I will enter the phone number in value and I will click on send. So I will get this result as a response. Okay, and I will see all the leads coming along matching with that phone number. Okay, so you see there is this lead whose last name is Abhi. If I compare this result on the UI, so you see there is this lead called Abhi. Okay, there is this lead ID as well along with the results. This is the unique lead ID of that particular lead, right? Similarly, the other second result is with last name Chauhan, which I can see on the UI, and the last one is Sulekha sheet, which is this one. Okay, so basically whatever results you are viewing on the UI, the same results we are able to fetch via the API. So what this basically does is it tries to search all the leads available in the system from either the phone number or in the via the email ID. So if I, let's say, want to enter email ID, that also I can do. And with this particular email ID, whatever leads are available in the system, I will get the results. So if again I go back to my business case, the first one was to search the leads in Kylas whether they are available or not. So let's say if a new customer has signed up, you will be first of all hitting the search lead API in order to understand whether there is a lead created with this value or not. Let's say instead of this, I had some other email ID which doesn't exist. Okay, when I make an API call with this, I get content as empty. That means there is no lead matching with this email ID, right? So simply a new lead has come. That is the that's the result for me basically, right? So we have to then, in that case, if there is no lead in the system, just like this, then we have to create a new lead. Okay, so this was the example of search lead. How do you search whether a lead is existing in the system with the given phone number or email ID? Similar to leads, you can search contacts as well. So the search contact API works in the same fashion. You just have to replace this lead with contact, and rest of the things remain same. You can also search your this phone number or email ID in either leads or contacts. Okay. Great. So so far we are able to search the leads via the API, whether there are leads with that phone number or email ID exist or not. If yes, then we don't have to take any action, let's say, as per this business case. If no, then the next item comes as we have to create a new lead in the system. Okay, so now how do I create a new lead in the system is, let's go through this API document also parallelly. If I go to create lead, this is the API for me. So either you can copy just this curl if you are interested in using only this API, or you can simply have the whole document available in your own Postman workspace. So I will go to create lead. Now, this is the URL of create lead. The authentication remains same. I have to use the Kylas API key over here. So I will copy this API key and paste it over here. There is the same API key for my account. And now if I go to body, so this is nothing but the list of all fields that I would like to create a lead with a value. Let's say I wanted to have first name, last name, phone number, email, or whatever it is. So for example, we take the last example. Let's say abhishek.chauhan@kailas.com. There was no lead existing for that name. Okay. Now I would like to create lead with that name. What I will do, I will enter a name and enter the last name and the email ID. So let's say email ID is this. Okay. Now let's say I don't want any other details to be passed. So what I can do is I can simply clear this. So whatever information that you don't want to pass, you can simply remove those values from this JSON. Okay. Even the salutation. Similarly, let's say this time zone, city, all this information, let's say, are not useful and I don't have any values available with me. I can simply clear them. Now, so this much is the sole detail that I would like to pass. Just check the basic JSON validation and hit the send button. So it will simply go ahead and create a new lead in my system, and this is the response of the lead getting created, and this is the ID of that lead. Okay, so basically a lead has been created in my system. So if I again go back over here and I go to leads and I search a lead, this one, I can see a lead has been created in my Kylas account with that email ID. So earlier, if you remember, with this email ID, there was no lead. And if I match the lead ID 2610577, which is same as this. So basically this lead has been created in the system via the API. Okay, so this was a very simple request only with 3 or 4 fields: first name, last name, email. If let's say you have more details available with you in order to create a lead, then you can pass all those values that you can see in the API documentation that is mentioned over here. Okay, so this is the whole body of create lead API that can be passed over here. Now, there is a small catch, because what happens is in Kylas, there is a provision of getting the custom fields created basis on the client's requirement. So let's say if you are working on any of the your own requirement or any other client's requirement where there are certain custom fields are getting created in Kylas. So there is a easier way to create a lead in the system is, and that is, kind of a hack, I would say. Not hack, but so copy pasting basically the data. So what you do is you simply go and add the lead manually. For example, I wanted to create a lead just with, let's say, last name, email and phone we have already seen, let's say city and address, country, and let's say some custom fields. So custom fields would be, let's say this sample number is 123. I will also show how the custom fields are getting created in the system if you don't know. And let us say I want to add source and campaign as well. Okay, now what you have to do is just simply expand this network tab, clear everything, hit the save button, and just check out this particular API of leads. Similar to leads, there, if you are creating contact, then there will be an API of contacts, and simply copy this whole payload and use it over here. So this will give you all the necessary fields and information that you are looking for, looking to create in Kylas. For example, this owner ID, last name, city, address is there, state, company name, country, and there is a field of campaign where there is a number mentioned. Okay, now from where this number is coming and why this number is needed is, I will tell you. When you go to this customization, go to this lead form fields and search for campaign name. This is the values within the campaign name field that we could see at the time of adding a lead. So I will again show you. Okay, so organic, Facebook, FB lead, new campaign, these are the values that are, they are basically coming from here. Now if you want to tag any specific campaign or source for that matter, you, if let's say if you want to tag organic, then you will have to pass this ID 18849 in the API request in order to mark this particular source organic as a value. Okay, so I wrote this 18849 because I wanted to tag organic. If let's say I want to tag this Facebook test campaign, I need to enter 279279. So most of the time these values are going to be static, available to you, because let's say you are integrating a website. So the requirement would be that always all the leads getting created from website should be tagged as source called website. Okay, so what you can do is you can create a source called website in this field. I had created the value website in the campaign, but it could be source as well. And you need to enter this ID 704818. Okay, so I will enter 704818. This will be unique to your own Kylas account. Okay, so whatever values I am putting over here is unique to my account. So for yours account, it will be different. Same as source. Then let's say Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, there is no value available with for this, so they are null. And last thing is custom field values. So this key has to be inserted in the API key in case if you are adding any value in the custom fields. Because if you notice, again, I go to add lead. So there were 2-3 fields that I had entered and they were available under other details. For example, sample number, and there were few more fields like number custom. Okay, so sometimes what happens is the basic fields of Kylas are not sufficient to capture enough amount of information. So clients go to go with the custom fields. So they create certain custom fields in their Kylas account. So you have to capture that custom field data in the custom field key, and the field name, if you notice over here, CF sample number is basically coming from here. If you go to lead form fields, you see a column of internal name. So whatever values we are passing in order to capture a data is nothing but the internal name of each of the fields. So if you notice, there is this last name is coming from this last name. Even if I, let's say, change the display name, so last name replace if I use surname, okay, then also the internal name remains same. So your API will not change basis on the field rename. Only if a new field is getting created, then a new internal name will be associated to that field. For example, this CF sample number, CF paragraph field. Okay, so the internal name is basically created whenever a new field is created, and it never changes over a period of time. So you have to pass the internal name of field. Okay. So how we are getting the internal name that I have told you, and the difference between the text field and custom the pick list. So the text field are basically directly accepting the string values. However, the pick list values are accepting the IDs. Okay. Similar to that, if you see country, it is accepting the country code, which is AF. So basically you have to call this country field and you will get all the country codes in the API response of this one. Okay, so you have to copy the values from here and store it at your end in order to pass any of the country if you want to along with your API request. Like for example, I wanted to pass, let's say, Afghanistan, so the code was AF. In case I want to pass this value, then the code will be changing. So here is the name. So basically the name of internal name of that particular country needs to be passed along with my API request in order to associate a country. Okay. Let us go ahead and create a new lead. Okay, so it got success and I'm able to get a lead. Let me go to lead ID and I will check whether the lead has been created in my system or not. I will simply go and on my browser, I will replace this ID with the ID that I got. Okay, so this was the lead that I created. And if I cross check the values, so sample number 1212, which was passed in the body, is shown over there. And just a moment. So if I see the campaign information, you can see the campaign name as website and source as Google has come because I had passed certain values for website source and campaign. Okay, so this is part of the create lead. This is how we can create a lead in the system via APIs. I'll take a minute of pause over here, and so far if anybody has any questions we can discuss, then we will move on. Are you guys able to unmute yourself?
Yes, Abhishek.
Okay. So if there is any question, you can either ask and go ahead and unmute and ask, or you can put in the meeting chat. All right, let us move on. Then maybe we'll discuss all the questions in the end if there is nothing as of now. So now we are able to create a lead in the system. Okay, now other than creating a lead, there is also a requirement of updating a lead data as and when there is some information getting captured. For example, if we talk about this sign up flow itself, sometimes websites ask only basic information at the time of sign up, and the other information are captured once the account of a person has been created on a website, right? So in order to update a lead, then it becomes very important to have the right amount of data in order to get the correct information updated in the system. So how do I update a lead in Kylas? Again, I'll go to this API. Okay. Now, if you notice this particular statement over here, updating a lead is a put request as of now. So Kylas doesn't have a patch request support as of now. Okay. So if you know how the put request works is basically you have to pass the complete data to the API along with the updated value. For example, let's say I have this lead available in my system whose last name is this city is Pune and the other values are like this. Okay. Now, if I want to just change this lead city from, let's say, Pune to Mumbai. Okay. So what I will have to do is I will have to get the lead details first of all. Okay, so once a customer's account has been created on Kylas, you already have created a lead. That means you already have the lead ID with you, right? So if let us take this example, so I already have a lead ID with me. What I will do is I will first get the lead details. So how do I get the lead details? Is simply I go to this get lead details API, replace the lead ID, and replaces the API key. This will be the API key. So this lead details API is basically going to give me the complete information of that lead. So whatever you can see on my screen, the last name, owner, source, campaign, requirement, whatever information one has added at the time of lead creation is returned in this API. Okay, when it was created, who created, all this information are sent as a response of this API. Now, once you have this information and you want to change the city of that lead, as I took an example of, so I wanted to change the city from, let's say, Pune to Mumbai. Okay, or maybe I want to add another information. So how do I do that? So that is a little, lengthy process in the sense that you have to make 3 API calls. First to search a lead, second to get the lead details, and third is to update the lead via put request. So in order to update the lead, we have to copy the basic lead details, which is starting from here. Okay, I will copy the whole data and I will go to this update lead API where I have this body. I will replace this and I will paste the details that I got in the lead details API. Okay, and obviously I want to update this lead, so I will have to add this lead ID over here. And let us check what information we are trying to update. So I just want to make this city from Pune to, let's say, Mumbai, or any other information for that matter if you want to update, right? And I will remove this created via ID and these, because these are static information and they are not being passed as a text value. Rest of the information I will keep it as it is. Okay, and I will hit the send button. Before that, I will add the correct API key. That gave me an error, invalid JSON. I think there is some payload which is incorrect. Okay, there is no curly brace on top. Can also remove this owner ID. Okay, now the status is okay. That means the request is success. If I go to this lead, so now you see the city is Pune. If I refresh this, city value should be changed to Mumbai. Okay, something like this. So that was a way to update a lead after you have created the lead in Kylas via API. So I will repeat this updating a lead process, as I already told, this a little lengthy process because we don't have patch request right now. So what we have to do is I will again go to this business case. If you have got any new inquiry on your website or any other source, first we are going to search whether a lead with that information is already available in the system or not. If no, then we are going to create a lead. In order to create lead, you have to hit this API called create lead API. Now, since we have created a lead, we get the lead ID. So we have to store that lead ID, and for in future, if you want to update the lead, before updating, just get the whole lead details so that you get the latest amount of information that is available. Because it is possible that, let's say, you have created a lead via API, but some of the sales executive or pre-sales executive might have changed certain information via UI. So before updating a lead, you need to get the latest details of the lead via the lead details API. Once the lead details API is with you, just copy this bottom portion of the information, because above is the internal details and some details which are basically not editable. So those details are basically this one. If anybody is interested, then what are those details? So those details are this one. These are not editable. These are system generated fields. So we need not pass that in the API request of update lead. So that is why only the information which is editable, we will be only pulling that from the lead details response and putting that as a body for the update lead request. And we will change the certain values that we are going to update. So city from Pune to Mumbai was a easy example. If you want to update any other information, for example, earlier you didn't have phone number, but now you have got the phone number, then you will have to add the phone number object over here, which will be looking similar to your create lead API, right? Something like this. This one. So if I want to add a phone number over here, I will simply copy this much of the request and paste it in the body along with the value that I have got. So in result, I will get the lead updated with the phone number, right? So that was the lead update API and the way to use that API. I hope things are clear so far. Okay, so far we are able to create the lead, update the lead, search the lead. Now, one thing that is again a business requirement is when somebody adds a product in the cart, then one want to create a deal in the system. So assume there is some CTI in your website where which is clicked once the product is added into the cart. So at that CTA click, we will have to call the deal create API. Okay, so if I look into this create deal API, so this is similar to lead create actually. Only thing is the body of deal will be different, and I already told you simple way to get the correct body is just go to your Kylas UI, add a deal with all the values that you want to capture once manually. Let's say deal created by API during webinar. Suppose this one is that estimated closer is this, because this gives a idea that what and in which format you want to enter the details, because for every client the body differs. As I told you, there are custom fields getting created, people are renaming the field. The best way is you create a deal or any entity from the UI and simply copy the body. Let us say this is the, and similar to lead, there is a concept of custom fields. Okay, I save this, expand this, clear, save, and I will simply copy the payload for the deal create API so that I can create the deal as it is in my system. Now let us see what information I want to capture. So here the deal name, then estimated closure date. So this is the date format that you have to take into consideration. Any date time field that you would like to pass should be passed in this format. Similarly, associated contacts. Now, associated contact is a lookup in Kylas. So how now it will be flowing is, let's say one person has added a product in the cart. So you will search first of all which person has added the cart in Kylas. So what is the ID of that person? So again, the search contact API will come into picture, because the person who is adding the product in the cart has which email ID or phone number associated, because that is in your control, your database is there, right? So you will search that particular number. For example, this I'm not sure with this number. So there is a contact, and if I want to associate that contact over here with the deal. So I will have to simply pass this ID. Just a moment. This ID. So if with any of the deal, let's say if I want to associate this contact called update Abhishek, so I will have to pass this ID in the associated deal, associated contact section. Okay, so this number can be replaced with this 10885 if I want to associate another contact. Okay, so that is how you get the associated contact details. Then list of products, again there is a product list API that can be fetched, and you can get the IDs of those products, and whatever products has been added in the cart via your website, if there is a corresponding product created, then it can be captured. Sorry, my screen is visible. I think there is some connectivity issue and my screen is lagging in between. So I was talking about this product ID. If you want to associate any product along with the deal getting created, so you need to know the ID, and this ID can be get from the product listing APIs that is again mentioned in the same API documentation. And is my screen like moving for everybody, or it is frozen? Because I think there is some network connectivity issue. There is a lag. Shitma, can you check whether it
It
is
is
okay for
on
you?
all contacts page actually.
Yeah, so that is correct. But I think there is a delay. But
Yes.
anyways, so
Yes.
I was talking about how we can get a deal created in the system with the associated contact lookup as well as the product. Okay, so I will simply send this. So a new deal has been created with this ID. And I can go back to Kylas and look for that deal, and this deal is available with me. Okay, let us say we have attached a pipeline also. Pipeline, again, if you want to attach, you have to basically pass this pipeline object along with the API request of um, updating a lead. Okay, so the pipeline object will consist of pipeline ID and pipeline stage. Now the deal in Kylas has been created because somebody, let's say, have added a product in the cart. Okay, so let us look into the business case again. Now, so far we are able to create a deal in Kylas via APIs. Now, the next and very common requirement of customers is that whenever a product stage moves in the website, it should be reflected in Kylas. So what do they mean by that request is basically whenever an activity is happening, let's say product has been confirmed, the payment has been done, or the product is shipped, or the product is delivered, the corresponding stages of their pipeline should be moving as and when an activity is happening on the website. So how do we achieve that? So in order to do that, there is a very simple APIs of updating the pipeline stage. How that API looks like is something like this. So change the deal pipeline, or in case lead pipeline. Okay, deal and lead works similarly, only the pipeline ID will be different. So the URL looks like this, where I have to enter the lead ID over here. So let us say there is this lead and there is a pipeline attached, India lead pipeline. Okay. All right. Now I want to change the pipeline stage. What I will do is I'll again click on this stage and mark it as conducted. This is the API to change the pipeline stage. Okay. So this becomes the lead ID. I'll replace that lead ID in my postman and then pipeline hyphen stages slash enter the stage ID. So stage ID would be this one. Okay. Then I will replace the API key again. All right. So now let's say this lead is in open stage. Okay, so you can see this lead is in open stage. If I go to my postman and send this, there is some error. Uh, in that case, let us simply copy this curl. Whenever any request is not working, just go to this URL, copy this and import. It is the simplest way of getting this done. Okay, so now this is the same request we have copied. We just need to replace this authorization with API key. Okay, and click on this send. So this is again success. If I come back and refresh this, so this will be moved to contacted. Okay, like this. So which pipeline stage you want to move to and what pipelines are there. So for that purpose, you will have to check out the list of pipelines that the client has created, that is available to you under this customization section under manage pipelines. So whatever pipelines your clients are using, the IDs of those pipelines and the stages are visible over here. Okay, so basis on the use case, whatever pipeline stages you would like to move in, depending on the status on the website, you have to get those pipeline and the corresponding stages in order to move it. Okay, so this was about getting the pipeline stages changed for any of the lead or deal via the APIs. So similar to making a change in the pipeline stage, you can also close a particular deal via API. Let's say the use case is something like when the payment of a particular purchase is done, you want to close this. So in order to close this lead, again, there is an API that can be called the same API basically activate. The only change will be pipeline stage will be with respect to one stage rather than the any other stage. Okay, so that will be the only change. So the whole idea of this is whatever activities you want to do via APIs, just try doing that via the Kylas UI and simply copy the APIs and the payload as it is available in the network tab, because this documentation that has been written is a very generic documentation, and the common information which is true for all the customers is captured over here. But if there is anything customized for that particular customer is something that you will have to refer. The easiest way of referring that is via the network tab. Okay, so with that you can check out any of the API calls that are being made throughout the journey. For example, I want to add a note on a lead, I want to add a task on a lead, depending on some use cases. For everything, you get the Kylas APIs available. You just have to simply use those API and put some amount of logic in order to get the API calls done, and the things will be easy. So it will be easier for you to fit any of the use case with respect to website integration or any third party integration that we are having along with the Kylas. Now there is one more thing. This discussion that we had was to get the leads created in Kylas, get the leads updated in Kylas. Now if the use case is such that if some activity is happening in Kylas and you want to make changes to any third party system, then how do we do that? So that's a very simple thing. I think we had a dedicated webinar on that, which is called Webhooks. So there is a feature of Webhooks in Kylas where I can go ahead and add a webhook in order to get any of the event JSON which is happening in Kylas. For example, the use case is that whenever a lead is created in Kylas, you want to create the same lead in some other system. So I think we had one of the use case of one of our client themselves. They were using a separate booking system. So they wanted to create a booking in the third party system whenever a booking is created in their Kylas account, and the booking is created in form of a lead or deal for them. How those kind of use cases are met is simply, first of all, you have to generate a webhook URL. So for this example, I'm taking an example of webhook.site, which gives you a basic simple URL that can be tested. So this is how the URL looks like. What I will do is I will simply copy this and paste it in this request URL, and I will subscribe to those events that I want to listen. So let's say lead created, lead updated, deal created, deal updated, and I will save this. I will name this webinar webhook and I will keep the status as active and I will save this. Okay. So what this does is simply whenever I create a lead, or I create it via UI or let's say via API that behaves in similar fashion. Okay. So let's say I've created a lead with this information. Okay. This is the lead ID. If I go to my webhook.site, you see there is a webhook payload that belongs to this lead ID that I got created in the Postman. Okay, so what it is doing is whenever a lead is created, it gives you the whole JSON body of the lead, the same JSON body that basically you receives in the response. But here in this case, you are not creating a lead. A lead is coming from any other system. For example, customer has connected their Facebook account. Now leads are coming from Facebook and you want to create a corresponding lead in other system, or let's say you want to take any other action. So what you need to know is you need to first of all know that a lead has been created in Kylas. So the simplest way of getting that information captured is you create a webhook. So generate a sample webhook URL at your end. It could be in any of the programming language. Add that in the webhook URL and save this along with some events that you want to listen to. So whenever some activities will be happening, the webhooks will be fired and the information will be shared to that particular URL. Similar to lead create, it will be lead updated as well. And in case of lead updated, you get actually two information. First is the uh, before updating what was the data, and second is the after update what is the data, so that you can compare which information has been updated, be it a pipeline stage or something else. Okay, so let's have updated lead. If I go to my webbook, again there is a response that is come to the webbook, and there are two part of the whole payload. One is the old entity, which is this. So below this, this whole information is what was the earlier information, and above this old entity, which is the new entity, it has all the current information. So in our case, in the old lead, there was no pipeline. Okay, and in the new lead, we added a pipeline. So that difference you will be able to understand from the webhook payload in case of update a lead. Okay, and you can also get to know about that via this webhook history. So in case you have subscribed to webhook but you are not getting the data, you can simply have a look over here and you can see the number, the webhook ID and the when it was triggered, and also you can check out the payload from here as well. Whatever payload you are getting on your own URL, you will be getting the same payload on this. So how this is useful is whenever you are subscribing to any of the webhook and you want to take actions basis on the data coming to your URL, this becomes easier for you. So this is mainly used to send the data outside Kylas. So from Kylas to any third party system, if you want to send any data, webhooks are used, right? So I think I have covered most of the agenda of the today's webinar to the end of this webinar. Thank you for attending the webinar. Thank you so much. So you can connect our support team for any questions and queries, or you can refer back this webinar on YouTube. It will be uploaded very soon. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye.